The Inside Out Revolution: Why Healing Precedes Influence. I want to take you on a journey today, a journey that challenges everything we've been taught about success, influence, and what it truly means to lead. But before we begin, I need to acknowledge the person whose insights have profoundly shaped this conversation, Amber Krystal. Amber Krystal is not just a thought leader. She is a revolutionary voice who has been quietly transforming how we understand the intersection of personal wholeness and professional impact. Her work has liberated countless Black women and leaders across industries from the tyranny of external validation. She has created spaces where healing is prioritized over hustle, where wholeness is valued over achievement, and where authenticity becomes the most powerful form of influence. Her impact extends far beyond individual transformation. She is reshaping organizational cultures and challenging systemic norms that have kept too many talented individuals trapped in cycles of performance without purpose. Now, let me ask you something that might feel uncomfortable. How many of us are chasing platforms before we found peace? How many of us are pursuing titles while carrying unhealed trauma? How many of us are desperately seeking visibility while hiding our most vulnerable selves? We live in a world obsessed with external metrics, follower counts, revenue targets, corner offices. But what if I told you that we've been approaching success entirely backward? What if true influence doesn't begin with what you achieve, but with who you become? This counterintuitive idea that inner healing precedes outer influence is at the heart of what Amber Krystal shared with me. And it's a message that might just save us from ourselves. Consider for a moment the Greater Cincinnati Prayer Canopy and their At Work on Purpose initiative. This organization brings together professionals across industries to bridge faith with daily work. When they began, they encountered a challenge that resonates with many of us. Participants were compartmentalizing their lives, showing up as one person on Sunday and someone entirely different Monday through Friday. They felt disconnected, fragmented, inauthentic. What made their approach revolutionary wasn't just acknowledging this disconnect, it was recognizing that external integration begins with internal reflection. Rather than immediately focusing on strategies for bringing faith into the workplace, they first encouraged participants to examine their hearts, to address areas of woundedness, to seek wholeness from within. The results? Transformative. As one participant shared, for years, I thought success meant leaving parts of myself at the door. Now I understand that my greatest contribution comes from bringing my whole healed self to every room I enter. Members reported not just increased confidence, but a fundamental shift in how they approach their work. Workplace cultures began to transform toward greater generosity and community impact. New philanthropic initiatives emerged throughout Cincinnati. The ripple effects extended far beyond individual careers to influence entire organizations and communities. Why? Because healed people heal systems. Whole people create wholeness around them. This isn't mystical thinking, it's practical wisdom with measurable outcomes. The Barna Group's groundbreaking research on Black Christian business leaders confirms this reality. Their study revealed something powerful. Leaders who prioritized internal growth and healing reported significantly higher levels of resilience during setbacks and achieved greater long term career satisfaction compared to those focused solely on external metrics of success. One executive in the study described her journey. I spent the first decade of my career chasing validation through achievement. I was successful by every external measure, but internally, I was falling apart. It wasn't until I committed to addressing the wounds of rejection and inadequacy I'd carried since childhood that I found my authentic voice as a leader. Now I lead from security, rather than insecurity, from abundance rather than scarcity. These leaders faced formidable challenges: skepticism about expressing spirituality at work, systemic obstacles to advancement, pressure to conform to dominant cultural norms. Yet those who did the inner work first reported not just surviving in these complex environments, but thriving and transforming them. This brings me to the first key insight from my conversation with Amber Krystal. Inner healing is the foundation for true influence and sustainable success. Before seeking platforms, titles, or external achievements, it's essential to address your internal world, your soul, your mindset, your emotional well being. Wholeness within enables you to carry greater responsibility with integrity and impact. As Maya Angelou wisely said, you can only become truly accomplished at something you love. But I would add, you can only truly love what you do when you've done the work of loving yourself first, wounds and all. This leads to the second powerful insight. You don't have to choose between ministry and marketplace. You can authentically embody both. There's a persistent misconception that spiritual calling and professional ambition are mutually exclusive, that you must choose between serving God and succeeding in business, between prophetic gifting and professional excellence. But this dichotomy is false. The Global Awakening Leadership blog profiles diverse leaders who are living proof of this integration, from entrepreneurs launching startups to executives leading Fortune 500 teams. What unites these leaders isn't just their commitment to faith, but their commitment to authenticity. One tech executive featured in their blog described her journey. I used to believe I had to leave my faith at the door to be taken seriously in Silicon Valley. But as I worked through my own fear of rejection and embraced my whole identity, I found that my spiritual insights actually informed my business innovation. The more integrated I became, the more impact I had. These leaders often initially felt pressure to perform rather than lead authentically. Many wrestled privately with burnout or imposter syndrome due to unaddressed emotional pain, but through intentional focus on spiritual maturity and authentic joy, they cultivated trust over performance driven mindsets. The outcome? These leaders reported not only improved well being, but also breakthrough innovations at work as they led teams more compassionately while maintaining high standards. This brings us to the third insight. Authentic leadership requires confronting unresolved issues so your influence isn't hindered by hidden wounds. Many leaders chase validation through external accomplishments but neglect the deeper work of healing past trauma or rejection. Addressing these areas unlocks prophetic clarity, business innovation, and lasting leadership effectiveness. This pattern emerges consistently across all three examples Amber Krystal shared. Wholeness precedes influence, healing precedes impact. The inner work makes the outer work not just more effective, but more sustainable. For Black women navigating professional spaces, this message is particularly resonant. We often face unique pressures to be twice as good while receiving half the recognition. The temptation to focus exclusively on external performance is strong. But what Amber Krystal's insights reveal is that true breakthrough comes not from performing better, but from healing deeper. As Audre Lorde powerfully stated, caring for myself is not self indulgence, it is self preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. For Black women in professional spaces, prioritizing inner healing isn't just personal wellness, it's revolutionary. When we heal internally, we show up differently externally. We lead from security rather than insecurity. We make decisions from wisdom rather than wounds. We build teams from abundance rather than scarcity. And perhaps most importantly, we model for others a different way of being successful. Not success at the cost of our souls, but success as an expression of our wholeness. So, where do we go from here? How do we apply these insights in our daily lives? First, we must be willing to pause the pursuit of external achievement long enough to address internal wounds. This might mean working with a therapist, joining a healing community, or simply creating space for honest self reflection. Second, we need to redefine success to include not just what we accomplish, but who we become. This means celebrating growth in character as much as growth in career. Third, we must create communities that value and support this inside out approach. None of us can do this work alone. I want to leave you with this challenge. What if the most revolutionary act you could perform isn't starting a movement, building a platform, or achieving the next level of success? What if the most revolutionary act is having the courage to heal? Imagine a world where leaders prioritize wholeness over hustle, where vulnerability is recognized as strength, where success is measured not just by what we achieve, but by who we become. This isn't just a personal transformation, it's a cultural revolution. And it begins with you, with your willingness to look inward before reaching outward, with your courage to address the wounds you've been carrying, with your commitment to lead from wholeness rather than woundedness. The world doesn't need more successful people who are broken inside. The world needs whole people who bring healing to broken systems. The world needs you, not just your achievements, but your authentic, healed self. So I ask you, what unhealed part of yourself are you ready to address? What would shift in your leadership if you prioritized wholeness over achievement? What breakthrough might be waiting on the other side of your healing? The revolution we need isn't just out there in systems and structures, though that work remains vital. The revolution begins within, in our willingness to heal, in our courage to become whole, in our commitment to lead from the inside out. When we heal ourselves, we help heal the world. And that perhaps is the most revolutionary act of all.